next science lesson. Right, before we begin, let's just check if we've got these things here, okay? So let's check if we've got our English book, but turn to the back. So we're in the final few pages of our English book. That's where we're going to be doing our science lesson today. We need a sharp pencil, a ruler, a rubber, and I would also like you to have some shoes on because at some point in the lesson we're going to be going outside. So pause the video and do what you need to do now with all of that. Okay, great. Let's move on then. So before we begin, let's write the dates and the learning objective in your book. So pause the video to do that now. Okay, great. So today, like the learning objective says, we're going to be recognizing when animals are alive, and more specifically, we're going to be looking at different things which determine whether animals are alive. Looking at different things to show whether animals are living or not. Okay, so just straight away, I'm going to draw your attention to this name here, Mrs. Gren. Okay, this is Mrs. Gren here. And if you notice, each letter in Mrs. Gren's name has a word underneath it. And each of these words show us the different things that an animal needs to have to show that it's a living thing. Okay? So I've found a nice little video for us to watch around Mrs. Gren. So I need your pencils down. I need you looking at the screen and watching the video because there's going to be some important things that she says here. Okay, it's about 4 minutes, so it won't be too long. Let me just change my screen around for you. Oops, sorry. Here we go. So listen to the video and then we'll talk about it afterwards.
Mrs. Gren. This is Mrs. Gren. One day, Mrs. Gren was watching her favourite TV programme, the wildlife show, starring Chris Peckham. Chris Peckham was talking about how to tell the difference between living things and things that aren't living. Mrs. Gren was very excited, so she decided to go for a walk to see if she could find any living things for herself. Mrs. Gren walked through the park. Somebody had left their skateboard in the park. Mrs. Gren stood on their skateboard and it moved. Mrs. Gren remembered that Chris Peckham had said all living things move. The skateboard must be living, thought Mrs. Gren. Mrs. Gren walked past the allotments. Percy was trying to light a fire. He was blowing on the fire. The fire needs to breathe, said Percy. Mrs. Gren remembered that Chris Peckham said that all living things breathe. The fire must be living, thought Mrs. Gren. Mrs. Gren walked down the street towards the toy shop. As she walked towards the shop, the door slid open as if it was by magic. They must have sensed I was here, thought Mrs. Gren. Mrs. Gren remembered that Chris Peckham had said that all living things have senses. The doors must be living, thought Mrs. Gren. In the balloon shop, the shopkeeper was blowing up balloons. They were growing and growing and growing. Mrs. Gren remembered that Chris Peckham had said that all living things grow. The balloons must be living, thought Mrs. Gren. The shopkeeper started blowing bubbles. One big bubble turned into lots of little bubbles. Baby bubbles, shouted Mrs. Gren. Mrs. Gren remembered that Chris Peckham said that all living things reproduce. The bubbles must be living, thought Mrs. Gren. Mrs. Gren walked past the dump. A truck was pouring lots of waste in the dump. Mrs. Gren remembered that Chris Peckham had said that all living things produce waste. The The truck must be living, thought Mrs. Gren. Mrs. Gren walked on, past the petrol station. Someone was filling their car with petrol. Who's giving the car food, thought Mrs. Gren. Mrs. Gren remembered that Chris Peckham had said all living things need food. The car must be living, thought Mrs. Gren. Mrs. Gren walked home, thinking about all the living things she had seen. Suddenly, she saw a hero, Chris Peckham. She told Chris Peckham about all the living things she had seen. Chris laughed. None of those are living things, Mrs. Gren. Chris explained that living things can do all those things, not just one. A skateboard might be able to move, but it can't breathe or grow, explained Chris. To this day, people remember the story of Mrs. Gren to help them remember all those things that living things can do.
Okay, great. Let me just go back to our slides. There we go. Okay, so one thing we need to remember is those 7 things that Mrs. Gren talked about and found out about, is that all of these things an animal has to have or has to do for it to be living. Okay, so just because something moves doesn't mean it's living, because it might not do any of these other things. Okay, so remember, it has to have every one of these things for it to be living, and we're going to go through them now. We're going to do a few little activities just to test whether we're living. We're going to test on ourselves today to see if we're living things. Okay. So, just like Mrs. Gren said first, is that living things can move. Okay. So animals have different ways of moving. So as humans, we can see here that we're doing different poses. This man's obviously doing PE, maybe doing some of Mr. Cox's workouts. And he can be doing different star jumps, moving around. This woman's jumping up in the air. This is obviously a baby, so it's just learning to move and move around, and it's crawling at the moment. Also, plants, which are living things as well, actually can move towards the sun and open and close their petals in different ways in different times of the day. Okay, so these are different ways that this is one way that a living thing proves that it's living, through movement. I thought we could test this quickly through something that I've never been able to do properly. You may have heard about it before, but have you ever tried to rub your belly and pat your head at the same time? I find it very, very tricky. So what I would like us to do at home together is start off doing this really slowly. So start off as slow as you can. Do this with me now. So I'm rubbing and patting very slowly at the moment. And then what I would like you to do is slowly speed up until you can't go any faster. So that's as fast as I could go. See if you can go faster than me. See if you can move faster than me. Oh, my arms are hurting now. Carry on if you need to. Okay, so that's just one way. Brilliant. Stop now if you need to. Stop now. Your head might start hurting if you're patting it too much. So that's just one way we can test out whether we're living. We know we can move around, can't we? We move around all the time in PE, at playtime, when we're working, we're constantly moving around. So we know that we can move. Fantastic. Right, the next thing is living things can respire. Respire means breathe or take in oxygen, okay? So animals use oxygen in the air to help turn their food into energy. Okay, we breathe in the oxygen, we breathe in, and we can see our chest expanding because that's filling with air, our lungs are filling with air, and when we breathe out, our lungs get rid of all that air and we exhale. Okay, plants also respire slightly differently though, by taking in oxygen and giving out carbon dioxide. Okay, just like we take in oxygen, really. We take in oxygen just like plants. let's see if we can test our breathing. So what I want you to do, I would like you to breathe in as much air as you can, hold it, and then breathe it back out. You can do it with me if you want, or you could do it separately, but I'm gonna do it now. So I'm gonna breathe in. And breathe out. Maybe keep your hand on your chest and see your chest expand as you breathe in. So give it another go. You can also breathe in through your nose as well. Okay, brilliant. It's quite a nice thing to do, just breathing in and out really calmly. It's a good way to calm you down as well. So if you're thinking about a question maybe in maths or English, or you're really trying to think, taking some big breaths in like that can really help us think better and really clear our minds. Okay, so we know we can breathe, which is great. We can respire, so we can do both the things that Mrs. Gretton at the moment has found out that what we need to be living. So at the moment, we're on our way to be living things. Right, next thing, living things can respond to stimuli. Okay, we can react to different things. Okay, so animals can escape from danger and find safety. Okay, so I've got a picture of a forest fire here, and birds and other animals that may be tragically stuck in one like these, they will instantly, their reaction would be to get away from it, run away from it. Okay, they know it's bad, so they would try to escape. Okay, and slightly differently, plants, just like humans as well, when they're damaged or when they're hurt, they can their body naturally responds to that and heals itself. Okay, so you might cut yourself, and you notice that over time that it heals back to just normal skin, or if it might be quite badly, it might be a scar, but it's still healed up. It still doesn't hurt anymore. Okay, so this is a slightly different activity. I would like you to respond to the maths question that I've got under this box. Okay, and your job is to, as soon as I move it, shout out the answer as quick as you can, so I know how quickly you can respond to the stimuli. Okay, I know that we're good with our maths, so we should be ready. I'm not going to tell you when I'm going to get rid of it. You'll just see it disappear. So you need to just wait and then shout out the answer as quick as you can once you can see the question. Oh, brilliant. If you got 19, well done. I'm going to write it here just so we know the answer. Oh, it's quite big. Oh, I can write it here actually. Get rid of that. 9 plus 10 equals 19. Well done if you shouted that out nice and quickly. That's us responding to stimuli that we know. Okay, super. So we can respond to stimuli. We know our maths. We can escape from danger if we need to. We can heal ourselves. We respond to stimuli. We're again on our way to knowing if we're a living thing or not. Brilliant. Okay, next thing then. Living things can grow. So animals can grow from babies to adults. So you might remember when you were born, you were maybe a really small baby, a really, really tiny baby, and you've grown to be in the size you are now. I know when I was your age, I was a lot smaller than I am now. So you will still grow to be an adult. You'll still grow to a full size. Now I think I don't think I can grow anymore, because I feel like I've hit the size I've grown up to be as an adult. But over the last few years, I've definitely noticed that I've grown quite a bit. Okay, and seeds as well as flowers also grow, because if you've planted a seed before, you may put it in the soil, maybe watered it, and you'll see that it's started to grow out of the soil into a flower, and it might have got quite tall. And this flower here is a sunflower, and these are a really good example of plants that grow quite quickly and grow really, really big. Sunflowers can grow up to, I can't even think of it, but can grow very, very tall, much taller than me in a very quick amount of time. So this is another way to show whether we're living. And I would like you just to do something quickly. If you're at home, if you've got a tape measure, that's great. I would like you to get out or try to find a tape measure. You can do this after the lesson if you want. And I would like you to measure yourself and see how tall you are in centimeters or inches or feet. And then I would like you to measure one of your parents as well and see what the difference is in height. Okay, and then maybe have a little discussion with them and ask maybe why that is. Okay, if you're in class, in year 3, I've provided some tape measures on the desk for you, so you can have a go now, pausing the video and maybe measuring each other or measuring measuring who's in with you at the which teacher's in with you at the time, and maybe see what the difference in height is. So have a go at doing that now. Pause the video. Great, right, let's move on then. So we know we can grow. We know we've grown from a baby to what we are now, and you will definitely grow up to be much taller than you are at the moment, okay? Right, next one then. Living things reproduce. Okay, so animals, when they reproduce, they either lay eggs or have babies. So, an example of a lot of mammals, such as sheep, such as humans, will just have, and dogs, cats will have babies. They'll be born, not in an egg, they'll just be born as a baby and then they'll grow up, won't they? Okay. Some animals, like a chicken, will lay an egg and a baby will hatch out of that egg. Okay. Plants also make seeds that grow into new plants or grow new plants called plantlets. Okay, so plants will often have seeds in their flower, in the middle of their flower, which will drop off into the soil and grow new flowers. Okay, brilliant. Another activity that we can do is, if you're at home, I would like you to have a look around your house and see if you can find any pictures of you as a baby, because that will give you an idea of maybe you when you're a lot younger, when you were born. Yeah, and that's going to really tell you, that's going to be a sign that a sign that your parents and your parents have reproduced and had you as a baby. Okay, and then you'll grow up and possibly reproduce, and that's how humans carry on living. Just like that's how flowers carry on living, by getting rid of their seeds, which is obviously slightly different, but they're still dropping them into ground and then they can grow back up again. It's the cycle of life. Okay. So again, if you found evidence of you being a baby, or you know that you've obviously been a baby and you've been born yourself, we know that we're on our way to being a living thing still. Okay, another one, slightly more gross one now, but it's still very important. Living things excrete waste, and that means getting rid of waste such as gas and water. Okay, so firstly, plants sometimes plants take in CO2 and release oxygen as waste, and this is something called photosynthesis, and this is really really essential for us humans living. Okay, because if plants didn't take in all the CO2 and replace it for oxygen, we wouldn't have much oxygen to breathe in ourselves, which is obviously, like we just learned, is a very important thing for breathing. Okay, so this is one way that flowers release waste. Now, for humans, I think we know the ways in which we release waste. And I won't go into too much detail about it because it's obviously a science lesson, but I think we're quite familiar with that one. And I would like a few things. There's a few things that we can check in our house and maybe outside to see or to show that living things have excreted waste. Okay, so firstly, one thing you probably have in your house, I can imagine you have, is a toilet. Okay, you don't have to go find your toilet. You'll just know that your toilet is responsible for that. Secondly, this is where your shoes will come in handy. I would like you to go out into your garden, or maybe just go outside if you don't have a garden, that's fine. Just go outside and find maybe a tree or some nice plants or some flowers. And I'd like you just to do the breathing that we were doing earlier. So taking some nice deep breaths in and out. And what you'd hopefully notice is that the air is so much fresher and so much easier to breathe outside than it is when you're inside. And that's because you're surrounded by all of these plants getting rid of their gas and waste, okay? And that's helping you breathe yourself. So go and do that now. Pause the video and go and do that now, and then we'll move on. Okay, great. Let's go on to the last one then. So finally, living things take on nutrients. So we take on nutrients, us humans and animals take on nutrients by eating food, which is the best thing ever. Eating food, and we digest food. We take in all the nutrients, which mean which are essential things to keep parts of our body running, and which are actually very healthy for you. Okay, and different nutrients are in different types of food. Okay. Plants are slightly different, however. Plants make their own food using the sun's light, carbon dioxide gas, and water from the ground. And this is called photosynthesis. This is what I was saying about earlier, which helps the helps the plants stay healthy, help them grow, and then they also release oxygen, which is really important for us humans and animals to breathe. Okay, so final thing, just to check that we're all eating and we're taking in nutrients. I would like you, just in your science book, to write a diary of what you ate yesterday for each meal. So I've given you an example of what I ate yesterday. So for breakfast, I had scrambled eggs on toast and a banana. Okay, I know the banana has got lots of nutrients in it. That's why I ate it. Plus, it's really nice. Secondly, sorry, for lunch, I had a chicken sandwich, an apple, and a yogurt. And finally, for dinner, I had lasagna and garlic bread, which was my favourite meal of the day by far. So I would like you in your book just to do this, write it down, and then maybe discuss, if you're in class, maybe discuss with your partner what foods you think are really healthy for you, really full of nutrients, full of good things. Okay, so pause the video and do that now, and then we'll move on to the final task. Okay, brilliant. So we have gone through all those 7 things, and we have tested all ourselves. We've tested ourselves, sorry, that we do all of those things. So we are living things, which is great, which is a relief. Really, we know we're living, which is great. Right, last task for today then. In your English book again, I would like you to draw out this table just like I've drawn it out here. So I want you on one side to have living and the other side to have not living. Of course, I want yours to be bigger because I want you to fit more words in than me. Okay, and I would like you to list as many living and non-living things you can think of using the Mrs. Gren rule. Okay, so if you need to, flick back to all the different things and just think of different things. Think about, do they move? If they move, do they breathe? If they breathe, do they eat food? All of this sort of things, all of these sort of things, and just list as many things as you can, living or not living. And I will look on Dojo. I would like you to post your work on Dojo, and I'm going to look for the most unique list. Unique means the ones which are very different, so very different answers. Okay, ones that stand out. Okay, so I will find the most unique list next on Dojo over the weekend, and I'll share it next lesson. Okay, so have a go at doing this. I've given you a few examples. I want loads more. And then share this on Dojo after you're done. And I will see you in the next lesson, whether that's maths, English, or science. Brilliant. I'll see you, or have a go at doing that, and I'll see you soon.